Hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm Victor Ramos, along with my co-host, Mr. Skunk Manhattan. On today's podcast, we have Mr. Lenny J. Lenny J is another MI acolyte. He's known Skunk for a while, and right off the bat, Skunk gets his country of origin wrong, so it just goes downhill from there. But in all seriousness, it was cool to watch Skunk and Lenny catch up, see what Lenny's up to. Since their MI days, Lenny is teaching there. He also talks about what he's been able to do during the lockdown here over the last year and change. We also talk about all the cool music venues in LA that are no longer there. As always, we'd like to thank Godin Guitars, Tragan Guitars, Ernie Ball Strings, and our friends at 5 Iron Woodworks. Sit back and enjoy the show.
All right, we get a nifty little countdown here.
Oh, it already went. We're rolling now.
What the fuck's going on? Oh, well, this is like the old. I love when we say the old days. This is our 33rd or 34th podcast. I don't even know. 34?
34.
I say the old days, like we've been doing this for years. But we used to just start a podcast and be like talking about horrible shit and be like, oh, it's already recording. Oops. Like,
yeah,
it's not live.
Like,
it doesn't matter.
Wait, how many times did we do this again?
Right. So basically the first 5 minutes of this podcast will be us talking about your name. That's a good start. Widegren. Lenny J. Widegren. I'm sticking with that. That's how your name is pronounced in my head.
That's good.
Hey man, where are you from? You're not Switzerland by any chance, right? Or
no? Now we got
talk about.
We got it all
Wait,
confused. What? We got it all confused. It's Sweden.
Okay, but the reason why is because I know you went to Switzerland for years back when my brother played with you, and guys all went to Switzerland. So I thought maybe you had family there or something.
I do, correct.
Okay,
my
but
wife
you're
is Swiss.
Swedish.
Yes, I am Swedish. My wife is Swiss.
Ah, right. Okay.
Never gets confusing at all.
Never. Man, and so you're still playing. Now, I met you in 2000, I think, at Musicians Institute. Man, and I've run into you at like a NAMM show a couple of times maybe, and we've chatted online like briefly or something, but I haven't seen you in forever. And back then, you were teaching at MI. Do you still teach at MI?
I do. I still teach at MI, and of course, because of the pandemic and all this jazz, we're all online like this. And
right.
it's been interesting. I started doing it in January last year, actually, because before COVID happened and they closed the school down, basically for being in person. What happened was they started an online program. And so I already did a few classes for that. I did a couple of levels of performance classes and a couple of what you call them, LPWs, as you know, live playing workshops or live performance workshops, which is an interesting way now online. It's basically you have to play with backing tracks, right? And so all the students are in their bedrooms or whatever, living room, and then they crank up a backing track and rock out in their shorts or whatever. I don't know. And but we've been doing it, and it's been working pretty well, remarkably well, actually. I think the students learn as much as they learn in person. Of course, it's not as fun. It's different, but yeah, I'm still there, still doing that for a long time. And I love it. It's great. So I'm playing guitar all day.
How long have you been out in California? Did you attend that? How did you get that gig, man? You to me, you look like you never aged. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look great, man. That was 20 years ago, and I feel like I aged like 400 years. But so you must have been pretty young starting that gig. Like, how did that happen? Did you go out there for that? What brought you to California? Kind of give us some backstory there.
I did go out there to play music. I came out there in 1991 the first time with my band from Sweden, just visiting. I remember being a kid and watching, TV shows or, obviously Hollywood stuff and thinking, oh, like LA looks really cool, And then, so, we went there with my band in 91, kind of spent a month there actually when it was really rough. I don't know, Skunk, you've been to Hollywood a bunch of times. It's not a pretty place, even though everyone likes to think so. And so we came out there and hung out for a month, and I liked it. I was shocked by how dirty it was, and I thought it was going to be clean and nice and big sidewalks and all that stuff. But yeah, we hung out, and then went back to Sweden, played more with my band, released an album, realized I kind of wasn't going in the same direction as my band members, and decided to sort of come to LA because I already had friendships with a few people and stuff like that. So I went to MI and I thought, well, what better way to go to California than go to music school and further my career or my guitar playing, and then hang out in Los Angeles at the same time.
Yeah.
So I did that, and after a year, the first year, they started a bachelor program. So I thought, well, I don't want to go back to Sweden. I want to stay in California. So I applied for that, and they said, yeah, you can switch. So I did that, and then after I graduated my first degree, which is an AA degree, basically they hired me as a teaching assistant. So I was doing some live performance stuff for my hard rock teacher, and when he was on tour, I would do his chair.
Who was that back then?
That was Danny Gill, who's now he's doing Lick Library from Sweden. He moved to Sweden. We kind of traded places in a funny way.
Okay.
He went to my hometown of Gothenburg, Sweden, and I stayed in Hollywood and took over his job.
Nice.
So it was an interesting sort of turn of events. But yeah, I did that. And then when I graduated, or 3 months before I graduated, my performance teacher at the time, who was the head of the guitar department, asked if I wanted to teach that. And I said, yeah, of course. So then I got a 1-year practical training OPT visa and stayed on that. And then they wanted me to still teach. So I said, well, if you do that, you have to sponsor me. So they did that. And then I met my wife. We actually met at both as students at MI already.
Okay,
and
cool.
Then she became a citizen. So I got my green card, and now I'm a citizen since 2018.
Wow.
American citizen, yeah.
Wow. Well, congrats, man. That's
awesome.
That's wild that it was that long.
Yeah, that was just on my part, really. I could have done it a long time ago. But, every time it's like $1,200, $1,400 to spend money on this, and you spend that on guitars, right? And
you were like, yeah. You were like, I really feel like this is the place, and America's got its shit together, and I feel good about this. 2018, you become a citizen, then in 2020 happens.
Yeah, I know, right? That's kind of what I thought.
America,
I'm like, okay,
the year America lost its fucking mind.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole world lost its mind, but Jesus.
Yeah. It was a wild year, that's for sure. It treated me pretty well, though. I can still work, and
no, it's great, man, to see that with teachers. We had one of our first guests we had was Dan Welby, man. We had him on here.
Nice.
We're talking to him about his school sound check and everything, and doing the remote teaching, and everyone just kind of learning and adapting to it. But in some ways, it lends itself to more opportunities and different things. And like you said, there's some aspects that like the LPW, right, in band performance situations, it's a little weird. But I've found that some of the one-on-one stuff, like certain things that I wouldn't do in a classroom, you're sort of right there at your computer, and all of a sudden I'm like hashing out, stuff in Guitar Pro, and it's definitely like changed some things for the better for some students, I think, because you kind of like you're forced to kind of go in different directions and do different things. So it's not all bad. It certainly opens opportunity for the future, and it's going to stay this way now, right? I imagine remote is MI, you think, going to be, were they doing any kind of remote pre-pandemic? Was that a thing at all, or do you think that'll be a thing now that they offer?
They started a little bit before it, right? So
yeah,
I think it started in January. I believe I think it started in October, and I can't remember now, but I know I did 2 quarters of online teaching before COVID closed the school down. And so they already had it, but it was only for guitar program. And meanwhile, they've been setting up every program. So it's going to be basically like Berkeley, right? Berkeley has every course they do in person, you can do online.
Mhm.
And so they're setting up to do that, So eventually, some teachers might just be online, and I'm getting used to it, and I kind of like it, So it's
You don't have to put pants on.
yeah.
It's great, man.
Yeah, I mean, I do have pants on, but it's like you wouldn't have to put on pants. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I wear pants. When I say down pants, I mean pajama pants. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny if you stand up though. You get my guitar, and I'm like, oh oops,
Yeah,
that's
sorry
my
about
underwear.
don't mind my Bob Ross pajama pants. Like,
yeah, exactly.
well, I found that I can't even actually put any pants on that have buttons at this point. But oh well, that's another topic.
Well,
Me neither.
That's when you buy the home gym thing. There, you ever heard of Peloton? There, Skunk.
Oh, dude, I tell you what, man. January came after this year of just getting fat, and I was like, I've started working out a little bit, nice and slow. We'll get there. Dude, again, I mean, it's not like, hey, Lenny, how are you 20 years later? And you're like old and fat. No, you're like the same dude, like from 20 years ago. Like, how do you, it's the magic. It's LA. It's the magic of LA.
I don't know about that. LA
It's
is
all clean and sunshine.
Yeah, LA can make you old real quick if you don't watch out. I don't know. I think it's just a love of what you do,
Yeah.
I mean, my mom gave me some pretty good genes as well. She was, she passed away a couple of years ago, but man, I remember her being, in her 70s, looking like she was 50 years old, and people would see her on the street and going, how old are you? And she'd be like 72. They're like, no, you're lying. You're like 54, whatever.
So it's the Swedish, the Swedish, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's something in the Swedish water supply.
Yeah, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Like they had the Swedish bikini team, and guys are just like, oh man, Sweden, where the girls are eternally good looking. And apparently it's true. It's just everyone's young and wonderful. And then you're like, nah, screw this. I want to go to dirty ass LA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think it's it's a combination of things, obviously, but I think if you really if you love what you do and you don't try not to worry too much, I think that helps. You know what I mean? People worry so much. You get so much stuff on your mind all the time. You see how people turn gray overnight when something really bad happens. It's like you wake up with gray hair. You're like, what happened? Where did that come from? So
yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's some good advice, dude. Yeah,
I just try to sort of not worry too much and
be
of course
Swedish
we all worry about it.
and don't worry too much. And if you got those two things,
that's
you're
it.
gonna stay young.
That's it. Be Swedish.
There you go.
That's, I mean,
I know where my next vacation will be now.
Yeah, Sweden. Yeah. But go. Make sure you don't go when it's nasty weather, because there's a lot of nasty weather, and that's part of why I would why I moved to California in the first place. Also, right? Sunshine.
Oh yeah.
Like every day.
Yeah, so. LA's nice like that. It just like it's because coming from Texas, you get this hot, humid, just gross weather, and I'm not a fan of it. But living out there, people would be like, "Oh, the smog is horrible," and I was like, I had less any sort of breathing problems when I lived out there than I ever did in Texas, because now the allergens and stuff, at least not that I didn't have a problem with, and yeah, I mean it's hot, but it's a different kind of hot, right? It's just not that gross Gulf heat. I love that West Coast, man.
Yeah, West Coast is the best coast.
It is.
I've
been shit.
But again, I'm from the West Coast of Sweden, and the weather is not so hot. It's shit. So,
got to specify when you say West Coast, the best coast. You got to specify the continent you're on.
Yeah, exactly. But still, the best coast in Sweden, even because we don't like Stockholm people, and they're on the East Coast. So, it's got the same rivalry like LA, New York. Gothenburg, Stockholm.
Were there Swedish gangsters like killing each other in the 90s over their?
No, they're just wannabe gangsters in Sweden. The gang violence in Sweden is biker gangs. Trying to be like cool Hell's Angels. Those are the people that kill each other and stuff over meth.
So even Sweden's not perfect. You still got
you still
meth
got that
bikers.
meth slinging bikers everywhere, man.
Slinging
Even in
bikers,
Sweden.
even in Sweden.
Yeah.
But they still look good. Even when they're on meth, they still look good. You're like, how the fuck do you do it?
Some of them don't.
Swedish.
Yeah, believe me.
Genes can only take you so far.
Yeah, not every suite looks good.
Man, I remember sitting in with you on probably like an open counseling or something. I don't know. I have a distinct memory. I feel like there was another guy in there too, and maybe more than once. But I remember like doing that at MI. But I'm wondering if the first time I met you might have been because you were in a Guns N' Roses tribute band, right?
Correct.
And I remember
Hollywood
some
Roses.
of the guys, huh?
Called Hollywood Roses.
That's right. And I remember the guitar player that did Slash was Ricardo, was the guy that went to. That's crazy. I remember this shit. And then the drummer was Chris, and Chris lived with my friend Saganya. I think they were roommates when she first moved out there briefly. I don't remember who the dude that was Axel and who played bass.
A wonderful human being called Colby Vale is still actually at it, and he's the singer, and he's the only original member left.
So that band's still a thing.
Yeah,
Wow,
they are after X many years.
Yeah.
But Ricardo on lead guitar, and then we had Johnny Rock on bass, who was a maintenance guy at MI. He was a guitar player, but of course Duff was a guitar player, so that fit, know. Chris Moscato, yeah. Actually, Ricardo is living in Texas right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he still doing music? What's he up to these days?
He's sort of trying to do music, I guess. He moved to Texas to join a band, and the guy was a flake, I guess, and whatever happened. And
do you know what city he's in?
He's in Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was. He's been all over the world. Like Brazil, and then LA, and then he met this English chick. He moved to England. He lived in Birmingham. Then he lived in London. Then he was married to this woman, and then they got divorced, and he met another girl and moved to Montana. Worked at Gibson acoustic guitars in Montana for I don't know how many years, 8 years, something like that. It's yeah, he has some interesting stories. And then his chick went mentally crazy or something, and they split up, and then he moved to Dallas.
What's his last name, man? I got to look him up.
It's Andrade. Andrade. Andrade.
Okay. Yeah. He was a cool guy, man. Good guitar player. I remember he was golly, I don't even remember, man. Because I remember when my brother came out there and met. He went out there a little bit before me, I guess. I think he flew out and then I drove out with stuff. We got a place, but I think he actually stayed in the hostel briefly, maybe. I just remember seeing Ricardo over there, and then of course Dan and Sean, and I can't keep it all straight, but so I feel like I don't know when the exact first time I met you was, but I do remember the Guns N' Roses. It might have even been y'all's first gig, man. It was at Palladino's, I think.
Yeah, that was probably one of the first ones. I think the first one we played ever was a place called Scruffy O'Shea's.
Oh yeah, was that down in like what is that? The beach place? What is that?
Yeah, it was in Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey. Yeah.
Played there a couple of times, and
I remember that place.
Paladinos, we played with Atomic Punks, with the singer from Steel Panther now, right?
Yeah.
Ralph. We played there a bunch of times with them, and we played House of Blues a couple of times. We had some good gigs. Played in Vegas a few times. Played at Pinky's in Vegas. It doesn't exist anymore.
So how long were you doing that band?
Probably 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe. And then Ricardo was in there for another, 3 years. Then Chris quit, Moscato quit, and then Ricardo quit. And Menno, you remember Menno?
Yeah, man, we're gonna have Menno on the podcast too.
Yeah, awesome. So Menno took over on bass after Johnny Rock left.
Okay.
And then he was in there for 4 years or something like that. And then it just was a revolving cast of characters for a bunch of years.
Nice.
And,
right.
But yeah, he still got it going.
And so your band, I mean, has that changed in terms of like name? I mean, roster has. Did Chris actually play drums with you? It's you and your wife, right? Have always been. So what is
We
that? Tell us what I guess that's kind of your main gig, right? That you've had for many years now.
Yeah, we've had the band for since 2003. Uh, about so we started a thing, and it was called Rock and Roll Soul, and Chris was on drums there for half a second, and he left, and we had a bunch of drummers, a bunch of bass players. We had a Pepe he was our original drummer, right, for Elegantly Wasted, which we named the band after. And we had Pepe from King. You guys know the band King?
Dude, King's great, man.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
those dudes. He's not the guy. He's not a drum tech for Clutch, is he?
He might be. I mean,
I
he
think I
was
met that guy. I met him at a Steel Panther House of Blues show, actually.
yeah, he's been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So King opened up. I mean, he actually Pepe lives in Texas as well. He lives in San Antonio. And he has a rock school. He just opened a school 2 years ago,
Oh,
much like Welby,
yeah.
called Let It Be Rock School.
Cool.
And so he's got that going. But he was our drummer for a while. But we changed drummers and bass players like t-shirts, like a lot of bands do. So we've we've had another guy, Michael Dwyer, on bass for a number of years, and our drummer Garner has been playing us for a while.
So Rock and Roll Soul became Elegantly Wasted at some point. Same.
Yeah,
just a name
around
transition, but nothing was different.
Just style was a little bit different. Less Black Crowes, more Foo Fighters, Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Or whatever. So.
And you and your wife, and you met her at MI, right? And you said in the early 90s, whenever or 90. No, I guess it was a little later than that, because the first time you went to LA was 91, right?
Yeah, it was like 95, 96. Yeah. So we started, the first edition of a band was her thing. And then I was playing bass. And that was when we were both students. And then we decided to just I play guitar and sing. And then that band formed. And that was about 98 or something like that. We did that for a couple of years. And then we sort of changed style, changed the name, changed a couple of members again. And then we've released 3 albums so far. And working on some new music right now, trying to hash out a couple more songs for an EP at least.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's not a super burning project like where we're always doing stuff. Life happens, and we just write whenever we want to write, and put out stuff when we feel like it's good.
Yeah, I feel like this is not a bad thing sometimes, because then it stays fresh, right, and can be fun, and you're not just killing yourself over that one thing, worrying about it all the time, and
we did that for about maybe 5 years. We were really trying to make it happen. We did our first album, try to do some touring. The second album, went to Europe a bunch of times, did a couple of US things, booked our own tour, played all over the place. Oh, we should have had 20 gigs, and it dwindled down to 7 because we're too late. We still wanted to tour across the entire US, which was interesting for me because I wouldn't have seen all these states if I wouldn't have driven, all the way across the US to Buffalo, New York, and Niagara Falls, and New York City, and then all the way back to California.
Yep.
And played in Texas a couple of gigs as well. We played in Beaumont.
Oh, wow.
I got to experience Beaumont.
Beaumont. Where did you play? Was it called Vortex by any chance?
Yep, it was.
I remember that place, yeah.
Yeah. Good friend Stephen Perricone's from Beaumont, so he knew a bunch of people there. And so we played there. We played Headhunters in Austin.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's probably not even there anymore, right?
It's totally not there. They were on a show called Bar Rescue, and and they turned it into a steampunk place, and then it went under. But the owner was, it was all this like scandalous, like there's roaches in the drinks, and the owner deals cocaine or whatever kind of crazy shit. There was a thing about headhunters that I knew, like everyone that worked there, they were all really cool people. And I mean, you kind of just book through sound guys that knew you and liked you. And, you know, Billy Milano used to run sound there. Billy Milano from Stormtroopers of Death, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And I remember one of the first time I ever played there, and we were like just getting started. It was like a Wednesday night, a mismatched shit bill. And it was just like, when we walked in, this guy was just kind of being a dick. And we were kind of talking shit about him, you know, like fucking asshole. And then our drummer found out, and he was like, dude, that's fucking Billy Milano from Stormtroopers of Death. We were like, what? But yeah, I mean, Headhunters actually was really one of those dive bars, like a lot of them, I guess, are, you know, it's actually like a really cool staff and cool people, and that just really mismanaged, you know. And
yeah, we had a fun gig there. It was weird though. Yeah, we went into sound check, like parked our truck and get all our shit in, and there was another band playing before us. And remember, all these roller girls came in, like this whole roller hockey or whatever. Now roller derby
girls, yeah.
The whole thing came in. It's like a ton of people who were like, "Yeah, this is gonna be good. Hey, roller derby girls, that's cool." And then the other band got done, and then they weren't even there to see them. They just hung out. As soon as the band, you know, we started setting up, all these, they all left because they were done drinking.
Yeah, so much of it's just timing, dude. It's timing. I remember like one of my first shows there, like, oh my God, this was me and my brother. And I mean, this was back when we first moved to Austin, 2005 or something. And like, we played their patio there, and we just got really lucky where like this like bachelorette party showed up, and they were just like all these fucking chicks ready to party, and it was just like a great show. So sometimes you just get lucky.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
That's cool. It was a cool place for sure. And I remember just being excited to walk around Austin, you know, just walking up, you know, around those streets, Red River and 6th Street. And, you know,
it's funny how that is. Cause I remember the same thing. It's like the first time I went out to LA, I was like this dork, you know, walking down the boulevard, taking pictures of stars. And then you live there and you're just like, oh, get over, you dumb tourist, get out of my way. Like, you don't care. Like, you live there. So who gives a fuck? It's a star. But when you're not front, and then same thing with Austin, you know, it was always kind of like, ooh, 6th Street. I want to play 6th Street. Now it's like, I will do anything to avoid 6th Street.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with the fucking traffic and the bullshit and the, you know, whatever, but there's that cool, like, it's a thing, or going to Beale Street or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a funny story for you about Beale Street.
Yeah.
So we're doing this tour across the US, and I wanted to play in Memphis, and my drummer was like, dude, no one plays rock and roll in Memphis. You can't go to Memphis and play rock and roll. I'm like, what do you mean? Saliva's from there, right? They're from Tennessee. He's like, yeah, but they're big. I'm like, oh, so you mean there's no rock bands in Tennessee? He's like, no, it's all country. All right, whatever. So we didn't book a gig there. And then the second time we had this little tour. We flew out to Ohio because we had a booker there. And we borrowed a bunch of shit from my drummer's friends and his mom's minivan. We're traveling around Ohio playing gigs. And we had one booked in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the gig fell through. And we're like, what do we do, man? We had like 5 days to sit here and do nothing. And I was like, dude, did you want to stay at your mom's house for like 5 days? He's like, no. Okay, well, let's go to Memphis. It's only what, 8-hour drive or something, right? He's like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's go to Memphis. So we go down there, get a hotel, whatever. First night, we're Tuesday night or something. We're like, yeah, Beale Street. Let's go to Beale Street. Cool. So we go there. We have some ribs at, it's across from BB King's. I forget what it's called. Is it Hot Blues Cafe or
Rendezvous? Is it?
No. We did have, of course we went to the Rendezvous, but that was the next night. It's across the street on Beale, across the street from BB King's. I forget what it's called, but they have wet ribs, like, you know, and of course Rendezvous thing is the dry rub, you know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we're sitting there, we're getting, you know, we're just walking around Beale. We walk into BB King's. We're like, yeah, it's cool, it's band playing. Yeah, let's get a bucket of beer or whatever. So we sit there and we have our beers, and it's getting late, and then they play the last song, whatever. Okay, so we're like, okay, we got to go to the loo, you know. And we go in the bathroom. There's my British, you know, impression of being Swedish and saying the loo, you know. Anyway, so we go to the bathroom, and it just so happens we all went to the restroom at the same time, right? So we come out and there's no one in the club. Like, where did everybody go? So we go to the bar, like, oh, they're probably cleaning up. No, chairs are up, nobody's in the bar. What the hell? So we go look in the bar. No, everything. Oh, go look everywhere. There's no personnel left, no staff. Everyone left. And then we go see, like, the door, right? There's a big chain padlock on the door.
What? How long were you in the fucking bathroom?
And we're like, yeah, I thought it was like 5 minutes for sure, you know? I don't know. But this happened. It was this true story. It's just really weird. And we're like, well, how did they get out if they have the padlock on the inside, you know? Like, you lock the door from the outside. And we're like, okay, well, let's just drink all the booze. Of course, what do they do? They lock the freaking cabinets for the liquor, right?
Wow.
So like, yeah, man, everything's locked. That sucks. Okay, what do we do now? We can't get out of here. So we're sitting there going, I don't know. And then this cop car drives by outside. We're like trying to flag him down, whatever. Just drive by. And then my drummer goes, well, I don't know. Well, that looks like a door on the side there, like two kind of corner windows. You know, he's like, that looks like you could open them up. I go, wasn't it going to be an alarm or something? Well, if the cops come, we just tell them what happened. We get locked in. So he pushes the door open. And it's like, oh, and it opens. And then we walk out, walk across the street and get ribs.
Dude, that's so crazy.
It's the weirdest thing.
That is wild, man.
So the next day we went to Graceland, of course, and then we went to Rendezvous, and you know, funny, my drummer was all about the Rendezvous. He's like, dude, you gotta have this at the Peabody and the Rendezvous, and so I get the ribs. Yeah, I get the ribs, and he's like, okay, get the dry rub ribs, whatever. I take a couple of bites. He's like, isn't this the best ever? I go, these ribs just kind of like what my mom used to buy at Ralph's, you know, on Friday night when we had in Sweden, you know, because that's how ribs are. That's how they come in Sweden when you buy them at the store. And he's like, "Why do you got to be kidding me?" I'm like, "No, dude, it's like every Friday, whatever, ribs." It was funny.
Barbecue's a weird thing, man. People will rave and rave and rave. And it's like, I remember I think it was in Nashville somewhere, and there was this line, and everyone was like, oh, you got the barbecue here, the barbecue. And I was like, all right. I mean, rarely do I eat barbecue where I'm just like, good God. But when it happens, you know it. It's like sushi, right? Like when you have the real good stuff, you're like, wow. But all the other times, it's like, it's all right. It's cool. It's not bad.
Yeah. We did. We went on that tour and we stayed for a couple of days. We played Kansas City, and we stayed with my old students' parents for a couple of days in the woods. It was, you know, just hanging out because we had a couple of days to do nothing. They're like, "Hey, come to our place, hang out." Man, my buddy's dad made the best barbecue I've ever had. Kansas City style barbecue, just smoker outside and driveway, and yeah, never had barbecue like that ever.
But
and then he gave us
yeah,
and then he gave us a big care package when we left. He's like, "Hey, here's a big tub of a bunch of, you know, I think it was like the, you know, what is it called when you the pork, pulled pork." He gave us a bunch of pulled pork and then a big giant jug of his barbecue sauce. He's like, just take this. Here you go you have like food for a couple of days. We're like, yeah, we do. We just buy bread and make these sloppy Joe things, you know, dude. Just eat them out of the freaking trunk of the car. That's great. Awesome, man. So yeah, pretty fun times. I wouldn't do it again. I said I wouldn't do it again with the a 5-seater, you know, just a Ford, whatever it was, Ford Taurus and a trailer. But you know, it was good. It was
I never had that experience until, you know, the last few years, and I'm glad I did, man. I wish I'd have done it a long time sooner. It just never did. But yeah, it's not something I would aspire to want to do over and over again. But it's a good thing to experience, you know. And it's there's something about the DIY. Just go out there and fly by the seat of your pants and have the adventure and all that kind of bullshit, you know. That's kind of cool. What are some other places, like obviously Kansas City? It sounds like you schedule your tours around barbecue. Well, Kansas City, Memphis. What are some places you played that you really dig, man? Any particular cities or venues? could have been awesome?
I think, because we haven't really played that many places. We played, it's maybe put it offhand where we played New York City, uh, Kansas City, which was cool. We like Kansas City. That was a fun gig. Cleveland a couple of times. Cleveland's very interesting. I don't know if you played Cleveland, but and Texas, we played, like I said, Austin and Beaumont. We played San Francisco a few times. I think my favorite place to play ever that I've ever played on a big stage was probably House of Blues in Hollywood. I think that was,
was that the one on Sunset or the one in Anaheim?
Sunset. I played both of them, but
is the Sunset one still there or no?
No, it's gone. It's been gone for a bunch of years.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite place I've ever played, except for this club in Switzerland. We just played, 2 years ago in 2019, which is an old mill, an old sawmill that they converted into a club, and that's a really, really awesome place. But beyond that, in the U.S., that was my favorite place. And then Slim's in San Francisco. We were lucky enough to play there twice.
Dude, man, it just closed too, I think.
Yeah.
I had been, my brother lives out there now. He's been out there for a few years. I don't know if...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's married, has a kid now, and lives out there. But so I finally went out there a few years ago. I've been out there several times since. Really like that city, and I just happened. I went out there to see Mr. Bungle last year, actually. And
cool.
It just so happened that the Melvins were doing a tour with a couple other bands, and I just got lucky and was able to get into that show. And man, dude, I know. And I was like, wow, this is a cool venue. And then fucking pandemic gone, That was a cool place, man. Very cool place.
we got really lucky because my wife was playing in an AC/DC tribute band. She still plays in that band. It's called Thunderstruck. But she was asked a bunch of years ago to sub for a San Francisco band called ACDC. ACDC. Because, there's only a handful of female AC/DC tributes. And so everyone kind of knows each other, sort of.
Yeah.
And they asked her to sub because my one student, Pamela, is from San Francisco. She came to LA, lived there a bunch of years, auditioned for this band and got the gig and was playing with them. And then she said, "Oh, we need a rhythm guitar player." "Oh, Diana plays in one. Now let's ask Lenny if she's interested." So she did 4 gigs with them, and we did one at Convention Center. Well, she did. I didn't play, but and they opened for Cheap Trick, so we got to see Cheap Trick for free. We got to meet them. It was pretty cool.
Damn.
But then they needed to play. They played Slim's, and so she was playing there, and they asked us to open with Elegantly Wasted. And so
that's great. That's cool.
Yeah, so we packed club. You're so lucky, First off, playing a legendary place in San Francisco. Secondly, full house. Not even have to worry about bringing anyone.
That's awesome, man.
So we did that once, and then the second time they just asked us to come open. And the rhythm guitar player was back. They're like, "Come open for us again at Slim's." We're like, "Yeah, hell yeah."
Yeah, dude, that's killer.
So we get to play there twice. Yeah, it's sad when they, venues like that disappearing,
What are some hip places? I know everybody knows the Whiskey and Roxy and stuff like that. And, but I remember Coconut Teaser way back. Right. And that I just remember that's where everybody played. I remember that place. And, what are some hip places in LA that are cool, kind of hidden spots? Or
in Hollywood, there's not a lot left. Hollywood's there. All the stuff is closing. So yeah, Whiskey's still there. Viper Room, of course, across the street. Viper Room is still there.
Key Club, I guess, is still there too.
Nope.
No? Wow.
Nope.
Wow.
Key Club closed and turned into a dance club. It's called One Oak, and it's I think Kanye or somebody bought it or whatever.
Gross. Boo.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Is Cat Club still there?
Nope. Cat Club
Damn.
closed.
I remember seeing the Starfuckers there. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was
Cat
cool.
Club closed probably 2012 or
That
2011.
sucks.
Yeah, it's been gone for a bit. Key Club's probably about the same, 2012, 2013, or maybe even before that. It's the last 10 years, man. A lot of stuff closed. Lucky Strike is in a bowling alley that's across from MI. We played there with our cover band for a little bit, and then they stopped having music. Then they built a real stage, and that's a really cool venue. They have a sort of a, I guess, all-star celebrity jam there Wednesdays. Obviously not now for
Right.
a while.
Right.
And then there's Boardners. I don't know if you remember Boardners, the bar. It's on Hollywood, and that one. They have a cool little patio in the back with a real nice stage. They have a club called Bar Sinister. It's a goth club, and we played there a bunch of times.
Is Knitting Factory still over there?
Nope.
Off Sycamore? No.
No. So all the places you remember, a lot of them closed.
I don't even think Knitting Factory opened until after I moved, but there was a couple of knitting factories around the country, and I don't know if they all are gone now, but I do remember that.
I think there's one the first one's in New York. I think that one's still open, but I don't know about the other ones. I know they had.
Where did you play in New York? Was it in Manhattan or Brooklyn or?
In Brooklyn, it was the only gig I've ever played in New York. I've been there 3 times, but I played a gig and it's called the Trash Bar.
The Trash
Bar,
and
that's what it looked like.
We call it a place. Yeah, I've only played there once. A place called the Lucky 13. It was badass, but man, I just like navigating New York and having to drive and deal with that, and especially with a van and a trailer. God, my God, it's fucking stressful, man.
I could never live there. I love the place, but I could never live there. It's just too crowded, too stressful. Crazy. Just it's weird.
How'd you like Buffalo? Buffalo was kind of a cool city, man. I dug it up there. You said you played up there, right?
We didn't play there. We were supposed to play at Hard Rock Haven, which was a big club there, but they only do cover bands, and we didn't know that. So we said, you know what? We're close enough. We're in Cleveland. We're going to go to Buffalo and hang out get some buffalo wings, original buffalo wings, and walk over the border and check out Niagara Falls. Because I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to drive to, be in anywhere close to Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Let's just go to Niagara Falls for a weekend.
Yeah, we kind of did. LA. I mean, we literally for a day. We drove up, went over across the border, came back, had wings at the Anchor or whatever, which is the original buffalo wing place. Got to the hotel, drove back. Actually, the next day we drove to New York, and we played in Kingston, New York, which is a tiny ass little nowhere town, about an hour and a half north of New York City. And then we played in New York City, and then we drove all the way back to Cleveland. So,
yeah, I was, part of me regrets not doing it. I know it would have been a massive pain in the ass because when I did a DIY tour for Good Rogering, it was same thing, man. It was just like, we went through Louisiana, played a couple of shows, like one of them on the spot. I was like, hey, can we play here tomorrow? We don't have work, and then we played like Alabama and then literally like drove to fucking New York. We might have, I can't remember if we played somewhere like in Ohio or something. I don't know. But like, yeah, it was just ridiculous. And then part of me wanted to go back and play that bar in the city, but like I was talking to a guy about it and he was just like, man, you got to play. By the time you pay the tolls and do this and do that, it's just like, it's so fucking expensive even just to get in there and do any. I think it would have been like a Monday on 9/11 too, and it was just like, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a good turnout, So we played
the Trash Bar Tuesday at midnight.
How was it though? Did you get a not so good?
Nah, it was funny because the guy was like, it could be hit or miss. Like it could be Tuesday night, midnight. It could be packed, or it could be nobody. And we're like, like a typical sort of thing. We had like 12 people or something.
Yeah,
it was a fun gig. We had a fun gig. We had some beers. When we were like, hey, dude, we're in New York City.
Cool to get in the city, man. Like, I feel like actually no, yeah. Now that I think about it, last time I was in New York was a whole different thing. We played the Alamo Draft House up in Brooklyn, which was awesome, but like the most brutal load in ever. Like alleyways and elevator show is horrible, man. So, but then we just got to hang out in the city, for a day. So that's always cool.
That's what we did. Basically, we played. We're like, and then Diana's dad came. He flew over to hang out with us for a couple of days.
Nice.
Drove around, rented a car, and we just treated it as kind of a vacation. We're like, well, if it's a shit gig, at least we played. We said we could play New York City.
Yeah, I mean that's right. Worst case scenario. Even like if you come into Austin and you're playing Headhunters, or you go to New York and you play whatever. It's like, man, it's a fucking city with shit to do. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying Austin is at New York status, but it's New York especially. People are like, fuck it, let's we're in New York.
Yeah.
So Diana, like, what part of Switzerland is her family? Like I know anything about Switzerland. Like what city?
Maybe your co-host does. I don't know. He hasn't said much. He probably very knowledgeable.
This is what always happens. I blab and Vic sits there and listens and sound like an idiot.
I don't know anything about Switzerland either.
I'll be helpful, Vic.
So just to clarify, Switzerland is a tiny little country that's landlocked between a few other countries in Europe. It's north of Italy, right? So it's got Italy to the south. It's got France to the west. It's got Germany to the north. It's got Austria to the east. And then it's bordering Liechtenstein, which is a tiny little dot on the map somewhere in between Austria and Switzerland. Like it's a tiny little cool country. Yeah, exactly. No, it's probably smaller than LA. Probably, yeah. But she's from about in the middle of the country, right where the Alps sort of go through Switzerland. There's Alps everywhere, but from the middle to the south part. And so if you know anything about cities in Europe, Bern is the capital of Switzerland. It's not the city everyone knows because everyone knows Zurich for banks and Geneva. But it's Bern is the capital, and she's about 30 minutes away from there. That's where she was born. So
how often do you guys go over there? Because you go play shows over there and hang out for a few weeks or a month at a time, or what?
We usually used to do that every maybe 2 years, go over there for so I think the first time we went for a month, we usually about 3 weeks and play as many shows as we could. We'd probably play about, I think the first time we played 12 shows actually in a month, which was pretty good.
Now, is that in Switzerland or throughout that kind in the region of Europe in that area?
Mostly in Switzerland. We played a couple of shows in Germany as well. We played in Bavaria, and then we played a couple of shows in Berlin. So we had to drive quite a bit, but it's fun drive and being around in Europe. So we wanted to play more places, but it's hard to book that when you're not, when you're totally independent, right? It's DIY and you just call in clubs and in another country, like, yeah, Belgium, cool. Can we play here? Oh, we don't know who you are. Sorry, right. So we ended up playing mostly Switzerland and Germany, but
from what I've heard, and I've never played any shows over in Europe, unfortunately. I'd love to, but it sounds like, from what I've heard, like, how was the vibe as a general rule? Is it pretty cool? Like a little more, maybe almost hospitable and towards artists, and hey, we're gonna feed you and take care of you, and not just like, all right, you get a couple of Lone Stars, now get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Here's $20. Thanks so much for your time. Or LA, or even Austin. Some of these places are
you got $20.
Yeah, I mean that's a win, right? In LA, it's like, whoa, I made $20. No, I thought, aren't I supposed to pay you?
That's what we thought the first time. We're like, we're not going to play whiskey. We're not going to pay for this shit. So we did one pay-to-play gig, right, for a release party with some friends, and we all split it. And we sold all our tickets plus something. We made $80. We're like, whoa, we can actually make money when you do pay-to-play.
Wow. Yeah, that's
a
win. Even breaking even is a win, right?
Of course, yeah. No, in Europe, it's. I played. Obviously, I'm from Sweden, so I played in Sweden a bunch when I was a kid, growing up, and then I played in Switzerland, Germany, and at least in Switzerland, and same in Germany, I think they treat you really, really well. They feed you. You always get, a meal, and it's not just like hot dogs. It's real dinner. They they treat you. They ask you how many people you are, how many people are in a crew. They account for all that stuff. They give you free drinks all night in any place you play, which can get you in trouble pretty quickly. So you have to have a driver.
Yeah.
But no, they treat you really well. I mean, you get paid whatever it is in the contract. You get paid, some either before, or you get paid before you leave the venue. You get food, you get sound check, you get you don't have to strike the stage immediately after you play. You can hang out with people. You leave your instrument, just maybe take your guitar to the back room, and it's not like a Viper Room. You play the Viper Room, you're like on the sidewalk waiting to get in, and then you have 7 minutes to set up. Okay, play your half-hour set. Get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make money? So we were trying to make money. We played Viper Room, and we brought, I don't know how many people. We had a good amount of people, probably 65, 70 people or something. And they're like, the promoter that night was like, well, you get X amount of, after 30 people, you get half the door or whatever. Okay, cool. So it was $10 at the door or something. So it's about $5. I spent like 2 hours trying to get, whatever it was, $120 out of this promoter. And it wasn't even the promoter, it was the club. He's like, oh, what? Would you want money? Oh, yeah. You got to sign all this paperwork. Like, just give me open the damn cash drawer. Give me here, so how many people we brought. No, it's so complicated. So yeah, they treat you really well. It's really cool. And, yeah, it's much, much easier of a vibe for sure to play there than it is in the US. I would have to say that. And I don't know how it is, I guess I know how it is when you have a better contract, because when we played with Hollywood Roses, that was a different story, right?
Sure.
We'd have the contract and the rider and everything, and it was kind of the same. But if you're a DIY, I know Europe is much better. It's for sure here in the US, they just sort of, I don't know how it is in other states, but the only place that we played, actually not even then, because we played in Kansas City and it was cool gig, but then we had to wait till like 1 a.m. to get like $80 or whatever it was we made.
Oh yeah. I'm
like, dude, can you just pay us right now? No, I got to wait for my drawer. I got to see how much money we made. So you're going to make me wait in my car till 1 a.m. and we played at 9 for 40 minutes,
Hoping that you'll spend like the Blues Brothers scenario, right? Hoping that you spend all your money drinking fucking beer while you're waiting.
Yeah. Sorry, you guys drank all your $80 you made.
Yeah,
what?
So, okay.
So see you later.
We owe you $200 and you drank $300 of beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
what was I going to say, man? You said something about cover bands where you were somewhere in the Buffalo or something and cover. I noticed that when I was in Nashville. It's been a long time since I've been there now, but it seemed there was a lot of cover bands. And you think of Nashville Music Row kind of like you think of Austin and the blues, although it's not as much as that used to be with that sort of nostalgia. I think there's some of that, but it's a lot more, nightclub, dance club stuff now, right? It's still live music, but not what it was. Maybe Nashville's kind of the same, but it seemed like that was a lot. It was like you had those kind of country acts, right? And just like you would have here with the SRV blues stuff, but then a lot of cover bands. Like as I was asking around about rock bands and stuff, people are like, oh man, you guys play covers? Like, Jesus Christ. Is anyone allowed to play original music in this town? Or
man, I've never been in Nashville, but I met the Swedish bass player, and he was in Nashville for 20 years, and we're just hanging out. Do you remember the Powerhouse on Highland?
Yeah, I almost mentioned that place. Is that bar still there?
It's still there, but it's not the same. It's a much more kitschy place now. It's actually cool though. But
yeah, I remember that place. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're just hanging out there with me and my friend, my Swedish buddy, one night, and these guys at the next table were playing all this like European metal stuff, and we're like, this got to be Swedish or something. People don't play this kind of stuff. Like American guys wouldn't play. They would play Journey and whatever, right? Don't Stop Believing. And he was playing like Final Countdown and a bunch of stuff like that. And we're like, So anyway, we overheard speaking Swedish, or actually his buddy left, and we were like, hey man, are you Swedish by any chance? He's like, yeah. How'd you know? Well, yeah, you guys kept playing like Swedish music and European metal the whole night. at the Powerhouse in Los Angeles. That's not very common. So we started shooting the shit, and he's like, yeah, I just moved here from, Nashville. I said, oh, okay, that's kind of funny because everyone from Hollywood is moving to Nashville. So
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, well, I was there for 20 years and I thought it needed a change. So, yeah, he said that there's cover bands on every floor in every bar in Nashville, on every, in every, 3 floors of cover bands in every freaking venue, and there's some original bands, but most is cover bands. And he's like, you want to go to Nashville and make a living? Sure. But you'd be doing that 4-hour gig again for tips because you get $50 and then you got to pay for tips. I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun. I did that, in like 98 when I was a student.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that?
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, unless you're a life, and that's like what you do, right? And that's just your life thing, is that you're a pro cover band dude, which there are obviously guys that do that and make good money.
yeah.
But I know it's kind of sucks to think like such a town saturated musical history with all this, it's almost like it feels like you can't go there and do anything original, right? And even if you do go there, like you're going to be like, you need to go there with the mindset of like, I'm going to be a songwriter writing these kind of songs. I've got to write hits. Got to get your fucking, manuscript of like all the, okay, this hook has to be this long. And then there has to be this much of a little bit of a rap in the middle of it and all this bullshit, It's like,
it's true. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember if that was the era when you went, if it's Scott Wittenberg, and I think that was after. Anyway, this chick, Chris Bradley, she was a MI student, and I think that was a few years after you guys were there. But she moved to Nashville, right? And she was in Nashville for 8 years. She's like everyone's exodus to Nashville, kind of like, oh, we're going to go there. We're going to be, doing our thing. And she ended up not being a songwriter, and she tried to do. I mean, she worked on some stuff, but she ended up not playing her own songs. She ended up not being the songwriter she thought she was. She ended up being a producer and started doing, stuff like in Logic and kind of making a whole career out of, teaching people how to splice your own songs together. And she got really successful at it. And then she said, well, I don't need to be in Nashville. Why am I in Nashville? So she just moved back to California, San Diego. So,
San Diego, man. I regret never going there. Like,
that's a great place.
I know, just totally beautiful. I really want to go to San Diego. Well, I was supposed to be doing a whole West Coast thing with this band Invincible Czars last April. Every April they do it, but then the pandemic happened. So whenever we're through this, hopefully, man, I'll be able to tour and do that whole West Coast tour: San Diego, LA, San Francisco, and all the way up to Seattle and Vancouver. And I just love all that West Coast stuff. But yeah, someone I thought of that's Mark Thomas, right?
Yeah, of course.
He's in Nashville now, right? He's started his own studio. Hit Garage Records, I think.
Hit Garage, yeah. He's been there for a long time now, and
he's been there a while.
Yeah, and they finally got a house, I think, a couple of years ago, and all that. Brian Allen, who was teaching bass at MI, he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people. Obviously, Nashville seems like it's gotten a huge influx, and then Austin has just boomed for years. And there's so many people fleeing California. I mean, you come to these parts, and they would have you thinking that everyone in the world is leaving California. It's the worst place in the world. It's definitely got its problems. I know LA. What is it like right now with COVID out there? Is it just a fucking disaster as much as, I mean, it's terrible everywhere, but LA seems like it's in a pretty shitty place right now. What's your experience?
Well, so here's a funny thing. So I'm in Vegas right now at the moment,
okay.
But backstory later. But it's pretty bad in California right now. I think LA County is really horrible, but I think it's just people not being responsible, people just kind of doing whatever. And we could screw your rules, but you can't really do anything there. Nothing is open. They locked everything down. It's like
everything's been locked down again.
I was So backstory on the Vegas thing. So speaking of Exodus and fleeing California, I was Welby's page yesterday. I don't know if you're Vic. Do you know any of his Skunk's friends over here? You had Dan on there, obviously.
Yeah.
So Dan was. I just stumbled on somebody posting something on his page yesterday about that, and he said something. There was some article about good intentions about California, and then this guy said, I don't know about good intentions. I think the politicians are out for themselves, screwing California up, just make money." And and then this guy said, "Hey Dan, watch this documentary. It's from Prager University, which is I think in Texas, because I watched it, and it was funny because it seemed more as a commercial, like Californians come to Texas, please, But it was a good little 15-minute documentary. Anyway, this guy said, "Hey Dan, have you watched this? You should watch this Fleeing California, mass exodus kind of thing." Mm-hmm. So what happened a couple of years ago? So I've been in MI for a long, long time, right? And I love it, and it's great. And Hollywood has really turned into not a good place in the last 3-4 years.
Not a good place in what way?
A lot of homeless people, a lot more crime, no support sort of. There's no rock scene going on there anymore. Like you said, like every city turns into dance club central. All of Hollywood Boulevard's trying to be fancy dance clubs. What does that bring in? A bunch of hoodlums from, other parts of LA, that come to Hollywood to party and cause trouble. So there's been a bunch of, shootings and stabbings and all that kind of stuff, stuff that shouldn't belong on Hollywood Boulevard, kind of always had, but not so bad. That started happening. And, it's just been going downhill like that. Right. And then homeless situation got really bad in the last couple of years. And then COVID, it got even worse. It's just, that's why people are leaving. And it's really expensive to live there. Rents are going up like crazy. We have a rent control apartment in Hollywood. The only reason we kept that, and I got a buddy taking care of it now, just my roommate in Hollywood. And I asked him how it is. He's like, I don't know. I don't want to go out.
Yeah.
I don't leave the house, because COVID, of course. But it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad around my block. It's a lot of weird stuff happening. Always, gunshots, which I hadn't heard gunshots since like the 90s. So
I remember going out there, and it was, for lack of a better word, a little sketchy feeling, right? And there was all the scaffolds and everything. And they were building it up. And then that was happening when I was out there, 2000, 2001. And then I remember coming back a few years later, and it was like Disneyland out there, and all the new Galleria stuff was up, and Jimmy Kimmel's got his thing there now. And not that Hollywood Boulevard always had this stuff, but they really redid it. Right. And they really made it. So do you feel like it seemed like it got more commercial, and I would maybe assume safer. And then now it's kind of been on the decline again?
Yeah, it did. They cleaned it up really nicely. They built the mall, everything. They brought in, they cleaned up the restaurants. They tried to make it really nice in Hollywood and all that. And there were a lot of cops. And then, I don't know what happened. It just sort of, all these people started coming in from other places to Hollywood more. And it just, turned into this sort of gang mentality thing on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, God.
And then people started not coming there because of that, right? Family vibe and the mall. And, now it's just whoever lives in Hollywood, and then a bunch of hoodlums coming in there to party that, stand in line for 3 hours to go to this one cool club they think, and now passing that, going, wow, well, we just stand in line to come to Hollywood to go to a dance club. That's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever. So, because it's hip to do that, and it's a cool thing. But everyone that lived in Hollywood spread out and then moved to the Valley, or, whatever, downtown. And downtown, they try to clean up, and that's still a shit show, now they put up all these really expensive condos in downtown, trying to clean it up. There's still homeless people everywhere. Hollywood, the same thing. They tore down the House of Blues. They're going to build a hotel. They tore down a bunch of other clubs. They're going to tear down the Viper Room. Somebody bought that whole block.
Sucks, man.
Yeah, they're going to. I don't know what they're going to build.
Shit.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's why we kind of wanted to leave. It's like it's just man. Crap, you know. And then
so are you guys thinking of going to Vegas or what?
Yeah, we were thinking about it for a while. We used to come to Vegas every year, right? You know, hang out. But we, like everybody else, knew Vegas as the Strip and nothing else. We thought
it's pretty hot, man. It's a pretty big growing city. I think one of the biggest, right?
Yeah,
it is. It's funny. So we thought, well, let's just. Does anyone live in Vegas outside of the Strip? You know, of course they do. So I think 7 years ago or something, Diana's family, we were here from Switzerland, and we're like, let's go to Vegas for a weekend. So we did, and then we had seen, you guys know Guy Fieri's show or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's a Triple D. So we just seen this restaurant. Yeah, we've seen this restaurants in Vegas on Triple D, and we're like, oh, let's go outside of the Strip and see if there's anything in Vegas outside of casinos. So we went to Red Rock, which is an awesome place. It's just a nature park, right? You know, mm-hmm. and so we went to this place Forte, which is in the west side of Vegas, in the residential area. Just went there to eat. It was really cool. Hung out, drove through the residential parts of Vegas. We're like, oh, it looks just like a suburb of LA. You know, it could be like in whatever. And then we came back 2 years ago because we were like, oh, maybe we should buy a place there, sort of rent it out, and maybe sort of retire there or move there later or something. Because you can't buy a house in California. There's no way. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't. Nobody could afford that. And you have to be a freaking $500,000 to, buy anything, right? So we're like, yeah, let's check it out. So we went a couple of times and found a realtor and just looked at places. And drove around Vegas a lot. And we're like, yeah, this is really nice. It's a couple of really cool places. Green Valley is really nice. Henderson, and it's 15 minutes away from the Strip. You can go to downtown or Strip real quick if you want. But once you're 15 minutes away, it doesn't seem like you're in Vegas. And there's a lot of nice nature around. So my wife got, she's like, well, let's just set it in motion somehow. So we said, okay, well, what if, you get a job there? We could still working on and we get a roommate, and I go back and forth for a while, work a couple of days in LA, keep the apartment, and stay in Vegas on the weekends. And I said, let's try it out. That sounds good. Sounds like a good idea. I need kind of a change. I've been in Hollywood for 25 years, and it's not getting any better. And let's see what happens. And then COVID happened. So we were all online, right? So I was like, well, I can go to Vegas and teach from Vegas, I guess. It's going to be on a computer. Why sit 5 minutes away from on my computer when I don't have to be in Hollywood with, a bunch of trash around?
Right.
So my buddy moved in, and, I took off in March, and then that quarter was online. We do quarterly systems, so we're 3 months online. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go kind of back and forth now. Something happened. Oh, we're still online. Yeah. Okay, well, cool. Let's stay in Vegas. So we went back a couple of times. Diana played a show. She did a live stream show with her AC/DC band. I went back to film some more video material for MI. And then I came back to Vegas and, been teaching from here. And then the next quarter again, oh, we're not going to open. Oh, okay. Well, now it's Christmas and I'm still in Vegas. It's like, all right, cool. Enjoyed the brutal summer. Like you guys know, Texas is humid and hot as balls. Here it's dry and hot as balls. But
brutal.
Yeah. But we have a nice apartment. It's got central AC, which we don't have in Hollywood. And Hollywood in the summer gets really hot too.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good. I was just sitting here teaching in my underwear, like I said.
Well, that's cool, man. Almost like a
that worked out well then.
Yeah. I mean, all things considered, right?
Yeah.
You're in the midst of a pandemic. At least that was a positive in that sense.
Yeah.
Is Vegas a little more? Are they open More than what California is?
It's way more open. Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah. I
Okay.
just went to see, in fact, I went to a bar last night, hung out with an ex-student that graduated in 2013 that moved here like 3 years ago. We just reconnected and I was like, dude, I don't know too many people in Vegas. Let's hang. And he's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, it's like 25% capacity or something like that right now. But there's bars are open, casinos are open, everything's open pretty much. Dine in. You can dine in. You can dine on the outs. Whatever. So yeah, it's a lot more open than California. California is completely like you can't do anything. So I felt like I was going to go back there, get some stuff, hang out for a few days. Hang out with some friends. I'm like, I don't want to go back there. It's COVID rampant and nothing to do. You have no reason to be there right now. So here I am, still in Vegas, and now it's like almost a year later, and still hanging out here because we're still doing school online. Who knows what's happening next quarter? I'm ready to go back there a couple of days a week. To teach, and we still have the apartment there, and my buddy's still taking care of it, and it's all good. I'm still a California resident. I didn't change my stuff over.
But it sounds, obviously, clearly the wheels are in motion.
Yeah.
What is it, like a 4-hour drive to Vegas, LA, or more?
Yeah, it's about 4 hours if there's no traffic. I made it here in 3.5 hours during the pandemic, like 3 times, because there was just nobody on the road almost. It's not a bad drive. If you drive early in the morning, you get around 8 a.m. and you just get on the road. It's not a bad drive at all. I like to drive, actually. I always did. It's not fun when, see, the one time we played here with Hollywood Roses and me and Colby were like, yo, let's drive Friday night. Yeah. Bad idea, bro. Bad idea. We drove a Friday night at like 6 p.m. We got here at like 1 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So don't do that. Don't drive into Vegas on a Friday night and don't drive back on a Sunday afternoon. That's, thankfully for Vegas to survive, everyone does that. Like all the Cali people, and especially now, right? Can't do anything in California. They're all going to go to Vegas. So, yeah, it's been different. I don't miss being in Hollywood right at this moment because it's not worth it. But it's been nice change and different. And I think Vegas is going to pick up a lot quicker musically than LA will. There's a few clubs. There's definitely as many clubs to play in Vegas as it is around Hollywood and Los Angeles downtown and the Valley area. You know what I mean? And beyond that, you got to drive to like Rancho Cucamonga or Long Beach or.
Yeah, that's the fucking thing about a city like LA and like New York in that sense. It's like, man, you might as well just be driving to Vegas, right? To have to sit on the 405 and and all that shit and go play. You're on the road 2 hours just to get to a gig anyway, right?
That's what we kind of said. Like my wife was like, well, if you're going to drive, like I'm in an ABBA tribute band, like we play in San Manuel Casino, or Palo Casino or whatever. And it's like, it takes like 3 hours to get somewhere, well, I might as well drive from Vegas to go to freaking Riverside. It takes me the same amount of time. Yeah. If I'm playing on a weekend there, I could drive from here, if I'm going to Scottsdale, Arizona, it's the same. Huh?
Like it seems like a less frustrating drive. Like, because that's the thing, right? If you're going to sit in your car for 3 hours and you're actually moving, that somehow is immensely less frustrating than just stop and go fucking traffic.
Absolutely,
and just better for your mental health.
Yeah, exactly. And you got nice scenery. The desert's beautiful to look at when you drive. And that, look, I'm looking at 500 million other cars going that direction at 20 miles an hour. This is real fun.
Yeah.
LA's traffic is horrible.
Dude, Austin is bad, but I've been in LA and I know that LA is just, and I remember going out there and you're just like, oh, this is great. I'm going to go to the beach. And you go to the beach like once and you're like, I'm never going to go to the beach again because it's just like, it's like all fucking day in your goddamn car,
Yeah. That's another thing. Like people say, well, aren't you going to miss the beach? Aren't you going to miss the mountains? Aren't you going to miss like,
no,
the nature?
I don't do any of that shit. Yeah.
I go, well, first off, no, I go to the beach once a year. It's a pain in the ass getting there. It takes 2 hours to freaking do anything in LA. And then I'm there and I'm going to Venice Beach. No. Am I going to go to Venice? It's like Hollywood at the beach. Why would I go there? I'm going to go to Zuma Beach and then it takes forever to get there and home. And 6 hours later, you were at the beach for like 2 hours. You're like, that took my entire day, and now I'm exhausted. And I just want to sit at home and drink.
Yeah, it's like you have to commit. If I want to live, do I want to live in the valley? Do I want to live in Hollywood? Do I want to live in the beach? Like, you got to pick one and stick with it.
Yep. And if you like the beach, that's great. I would love to live by the beach in LA. Hermosa Beach is awesome. Redondo, it's great. But then,
expensive.
Do I live in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Do I live by the beach and work in Hollywood?
Right. Yeah.
Fuck no.
No.
You have to live where you work in LA or you're driving yourself nuts. You know what I mean? So the thing was, we weren't driving a lot in LA because I walked 5 minutes to MI, and my wife was working in downtown or Hollywood. So take a subway or whatever. And that was kind of a blessing. But then, I want to do something, right? Now we have to drive. And now we're even more frustrated because we don't do it every day. And now we're going, this is terrible. Meanwhile, but yes, Austin is probably not half as bad as LA. And
it sucks, but it's not as bad. Nothing's as bad as LA that I know of.
Yeah. So we get to Vegas and we're driving around here. And now it's picking up a little bit because of pandemic and more stuff open. But we're like, I could still get anywhere in 30 minutes in Vegas. I mean, I go across the entire city in 30 minutes, wherever I want to go. Wow. So it's, and then again, beach. I went to the beach once a year. I don't even go in the water. I don't need to live in Los Angeles because of the beach. That's not even why I lived there in the first place. I like lakes. I grew up with lakes in Sweden. So in Vegas, I got the mountains. 15 minutes, 20 minutes to Red Rock. I got Lake Mead. Takes a half hour to go to Lake Mead if I want to boat or swim or whatever, right? Or just see water, you know what I mean? There's a wetlands park here. It takes 20 minutes to get to. It's super beautiful. It looks like you're in freaking Louisiana or something, swamps. And there's a little creek river going through there and everything. And you can bike around it. You can walk around it. We did that a lot in the spring. It was amazing. And then, I can get to Zion National Park in like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I can get to Valley of Fire in 2 hours, So there's a lot of nature around here. Yeah. And for me, I don't miss the beach, but there's amazing stuff I can do in 2 hours. Instead of having to go to the beach that takes me 2 hours, I can go to Zion.
Got to make that Venice drum circle every Sunday.
It's true. That's true. And I create my own drum circle at Lake Mead now. But but I think it's cool. It's a nice change, and I'll be back in Hollywood, obviously, and working and stuff like that. But I think it's going to pick up better here. And there's also a lot of musicians moving to Vegas as well. A lot of LA people moved to Vegas already too.
Man. Well, and it's still like not that far. That's what's cool. It's not this huge across the country thing. It's moving to Austin or Nashville. That's a long distance. Like Vegas is not. It's still a hop and a skip.
That's kind of why we liked it. We thought, well, it's close enough to LA. We can still hang out with our all friends. We can drive there in like 4 hours or whatever. And
the same amount of time it would take you to go to the beach.
Yeah, pretty much. Beach and back, same thing. Yeah. And you can do a day trip if you wanted to really bad. You know what I mean? It's not, it's possible. And cost of living is a lot cheaper. You can actually buy a home, it's the plan eventually. And, and once it picks up, obviously there's a lot of gigs, that's another thing considering, there's a lot of entertainment in Vegas. It's like the other LA pretty much. So they make fun of that called East California or like little LA here because there's so many people from LA. And
you got the Raiders there too now.
Exactly.
If you're a football fan. Yeah.
Man, Vegas seems like a pretty happening spot right now.
Well, we had Foxy on the podcast, and she's local. She's Vegas, and she talks about what to do in Vegas, like live like a local, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a friend that she has a radio show out there, and I'm terrible for not plugging it. It's called Sex, Fox, and Rock and Roll, right?
There you go.
About rock and roll, plays rock and roll, and then they talk about porn if the guest so desires. So naturally, I was like, "Hey, we got to have you on the podcast." Now she was a blast, but she's I think she's from New York, somewhere in New York originally, and she's an attorney, but she's just just loves rock and roll and does this whole thing. But that's like, I think one of the things she does is like talks about all the things to do in Vegas that are off the not on the strip, right? There's all this cool shit going on.
Yeah, off the strip stuff.
I think she was saying it's a pretty happening scene out there.
Yeah, I think before we kind of got here, my wife was like, how do we figure out what's going on in Vegas? So she found this Twitter feed called Las Vegas Locally, and there's two of them, Vital Vegas as well. And they like post, a bunch of people post there, a bunch of stuff that what's doing Vegas, blah, blah, blah. And someone will say, go to Frankie's Tiki Room, or, go to the Sound Dollar. It's the blues club out here.
Yeah.
Or go to blah, 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 go to Fremont Street and hit Backstage, or, whatever. Right. So we learned a lot from that, and then from friends that moved here that post stuff again. Go check this out. Go check that out. Of course, now a lot of stuff was closed for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of opening up a little bit, but there's definitely a lot of local things to do, that people don't know about. If you're just coming to Vegas and you're going down the casino row, kind of thing, you have no idea. You just go to Fremont Street, or you go to, the Bellagio or something, and that's it. You don't have no idea what's out, anywhere else. But that's like Austin, I'm sure, right? I'm sure there's plenty of cool stuff to do in Austin. We were there for a day. Like we go to 6th Street. That's it. You got to go down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but when you actually live somewhere, you're like, no, there's like, because that's what people think, right? They think, oh, Texas, Austin, 6th Street and horses or some shit, and LA, it's all movie stars and glitz and glamour. And you get there and you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, but I mean, yeah, and just in Vegas, you just think of that one thing, right? Just think gambling, but and it definitely seems now the Raiders going there and all this, and like in the last maybe 5-10 years, just kind of similar to Austin, has just been exploding, and just the growth is exponential in so many places. But Vegas seems real similar in that. And that's great. It's great to hear, like, it's unfortunate, like when you hear these like great nostalgic venues in LA closing, and you hear about that sucks, because there's so much history there, from the Doors and Zappa to Guns N' Roses, and like, but at least, there's some cool shit happening in other places. And I mean, I've never been to Vegas, and I just, that when this pandemic has passed and we're able to like go play real shows again and do stuff and not worry about everything, I can't wait to do anything West Coast. But I really want to. Actually, with one band, we were going to play some kind of festival that was, I forget the name of the town, but it was right there on the corner of Arizona and Nevada. And Vegas is kind of down. Am I completely off? Is Vegas kind of close to Arizona? Kind of down that corner, right?
Yeah, it borders pretty much. Lake Mead is half in Arizona, half in Nevada.
Yeah, so it's like it's like right there.
But that's very northern Arizona, so you'd have to drive. It's still. It's probably still a 5-hour drive to Phoenix.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, the place it was right there though, in that little corner.
Yeah. There's a place called Kingman, Arizona. I might have been there. That's a little.
I can't remember what it was called now, but.
Or Searchlight. There's another place that's.
Was it Winslow, close. Arizona?
It wasn't Winslow. It wasn't an Eagles song.
Yeah. I don't even know where that is. Where is Winslow, Arizona, Vic?
Is that made up? Did the Eagles just make that up?
No, it's off the I-40. So probably middle of the state, I-40 somewhere. I drove through it years ago when I was coming home from California.
I wouldn't put it past people to make up a town that sounds good for a song name,
Yeah.
Lodi.
Yeah. Lodi's actually a place, right? You guys
I've been there.
Yeah. I was like, what? Lodi? What the hell is this? Yeah.
That's Fogarty, though, right? He might just be mispronouncing shit with his southern accent.
No, it's true. But it's funny how people do that kind of stuff. Like it's like smell of Colita.
Lodi, now that we're on the subject.
What is it, Colita? What's you guys know that? Smell of
Kalita
Colitas?
sounds familiar, right?
It's from Hotel
Oh,
California.
the smell of Colita is warm in the air.
Oh yeah, what?
Right.
So is that like I always thought that was like I don't know, a beverage, a flower.
It's a flower. It's a flower. Like no one knows what that is. I think you just made it up. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm
Lodi,
looking it up now.
Yeah, Lodi's in like Central California somewhere.
Huh.
I think around St. Louis Obispo-ish, kind of around there. Vic's looking it up.
Yeah. No,
anyway,
I got to remember.
Yeah. No, there's it's cool that, you know, even though, like you said, Hollywood's kind of taking a poop, it's like, you know, other cities are picking up the slack. Like Texas, a lot of people are moving there. Austin's going to be happening. Nashville is still going to be happening. I think Vegas is the next where people are going to sort of move from music, you know. Denver, people are moving to Denver a lot. Portland has always been a music city, but Portland, man, what's going on in Portland? It's like disastrous up there.
Jesus fucking Christ. Look, man. Yeah, what the fuck's going on with Seattle and Portland? God damn it. I love that region, and they need to get their shit together up there.
I thought everything was supposed to be fixed.
If you're mad, just burn it all to the ground. It's all good. We'll just stand here and watch. Totally cool.
Orange Man out. Everything should be happy, right?
Yeah. No, but then there was a riot, right? Like,
there's still riots. Yeah.
So Donald Trump's gone, and I just
they're still rioting. Yeah.
What the fuck happened? Why are they rioting? They should be happy.
It's just still rioting. They're just rioting because it's who knows, man. Yeah.
So,
it's still rioting.
So Lodi, speaking of Oregon, it's Northern California. It's north of Stockton. So I do remember driving through there when I was stationed in Washington State, driving home, right? Driving from Washington. Yeah.
So are you originally from California?
No, I'm from Texas.
Okay.
I was stationed up in Washington State for a couple of years, and then my last year, a little over a year, I was stationed in California, like between LA and San Diego, Camp Pendleton. So
yeah, okay,
So I made that drive a few times.
Camp Pendleton's nice. I mean, if it wasn't for music or whatever, and I was going to live in California, I would definitely live in San Diego. You know,
that whole I love that whole area, that southern part of California, like from Pendleton down. You have all those little beach towns: Del Mar, Carlsbad, Pacific Beach, San Diego. San Diego is just gorgeous.
Yeah, and I was telling someone yesterday about the gas lamp quarter. You know, that's something special. Yeah. Like a European city, you know, where they have all the bars and stuff in a couple of blocks, and it's not like just one big street. It's like a couple of blocks of, you know, where everyone's just mingling. You know, where LA doesn't have that. You know, Los Angeles, it's Hollywood, but it doesn't have the same vibe. You know, so
yeah, San Diego's got that old. Those old missions, those old Spanish, Old Town, right? Gas lamp. Yeah, it's a really cool, laid back vibe. I just kind of want to hang out on the beach all day.
Yeah,
not doing
anything. I do like San Francisco a lot. I remember when I first came, I was going to go to the U.S. and go to MI. I was considering strongly to go to a photography school, actually, out of all, because I like taking pictures, but I don't have any experience. And I was highly considering going to a photography school in San Francisco instead of MI, because I'd been, you know, kind of the vibe in San Francisco is pretty European, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's changed. I mean, I went to a school there early 90s, mid 90s. And it was a cool place. I loved it. I like the beaches better in Southern California, but San Francisco is this really cool town. And then I went back there. Gosh, it's probably been 5 years since I've been back. It's totally different vibe, totally different now. It doesn't feel the same. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to go to San Francisco. I'll go to San Diego in a heartbeat, but
yeah, no, I hear you.
What's the difference? How can you explain it, do you think?
The only way that I can describe it is how Austin used to be, you know, kind of like late 90s, you know, 2000s, still kind of a little more bohemian, right? Kind of vibe. Now it's very much, every time I've gone there for work, but it's been very, people are just not as friendly. Back then, maybe it's because I was younger, but people just seem more friendly, more outgoing. You could talk to a lot of people. You go back now, and it's all the tech companies are there, right? So everybody's just.
I think that happened. I think that happened everywhere, like that gentrification with tech companies, and that culture. That whole culture in itself is like sitting in front of a screen, like we're doing right now. Yeah. So it's like, people aren't as friendly or maybe as outgoing. They're sort of like, oh, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to go to my office. Don't look at me. Yep. It's like, and I remember being there in the first time I went to San Francisco was when I went to MI in the very beginning. We had a guy from San Mateo in our class, and we said, I always wanted to go to San Francisco. Yeah, come up, visit my family for a few days. So we did that on a break, and we this is a really cool area, San Mateo, the whole Bay, and then we, obviously Golden Gate Park and Haight-Ashbury, and that was in 94, 95. Mm-hmm. So, and it was super cool. I liked the vibe a lot. And I can imagine that it changed quite a bit, and that doesn't exist anymore. And Hollywood's the same. Hollywood changed a lot, It's going back and forth between being a crappy, dangerous, but kind of charming in a weird, like dangerous way kind of place, to a nice, safer environment, and now back to shit, but worse. You know what I mean? It's just
it's shit without the rock and roll.
Yeah, and then also, but what's weird is they're building all these fancy buildings and condos everywhere in Hollywood, trying to make it super nice, like gentrification, right? Super nice condos, high-rise buildings. They're tearing down all the old school, on Sunset Boulevard, East Hollywood. There was like all these old, taco shops and all these little bars and stuff. That's like all that's gone.
That's all the culture is just.
Yeah, they're tearing down all the culture and building a bunch of glass buildings with high-rise condos that are $3,000 a month for a one-bedroom, which no one can live in. So
for someone to live like that does exactly what we're doing right now, right? They can just sit there on their computer all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny.
I live in Hollywood.
You guys got Joe Rogan, right? Did he move to?
I mean, Joe Rogan came here, and Elon Musk. I mean, all these tech fuckers are coming here now.
Did you guys see the one where Joe Rogan was talking about it? I mean, he's been quoted a bunch on that video, fleeing California, escaping California, blah, blah, blah. I saw YouTube videos. And he's like, there's a mass exodus out of California right now because it's just too fucking expensive. And he goes, there's too many fucking people, And then he's like, I'm going to go to Texas. When are you leaving? I think I'm leaving in like 2 months. And then he left like a month later. Like, whoop, out of there,
He had The Undertaker on his podcast like a couple of days ago, like the wrestler, The Undertaker, right? He lives here in Austin. I didn't know. I knew he lived in Texas, but I guess I forgot he lived in Austin. But they talked about that, the Exodus. And Undertaker was like, bring your money, leave your values. He goes, bring that money, leave those California values. And then Joe Rogan was like, I think it's the politicians that just kind of messed everything up. Because he would rag on Garcetti. Is that their mayor's name, Garcetti?
Yeah.
And Newman, right? Newsom.
Gruesome Newsom is what they call him.
Newsom. And and the Undertaker was like, well, you guys voted him in there. So...
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't vote him in there, but But we thought Villaraigosa was bad, like for a bunch of years. Like Garcetti, fucking terrible. Like the homeless problem is the worst thing. Like I don't know how they cannot get this under control, And he's like, "Yeah, well, we're building all this. No, you're not doing shit, dude. All you're doing is putting money in your pocket." And the city is going to shit. You invite all these developers to build really expensive buildings no one can afford to live in. And then you're saying, oh, we're trying to fix the homeless problem. So so don't invite
$3,000 a month condos.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you build affordable housing in the middle of Hollywood where a bunch of low wage workers, live and can't live there anymore. So now they have to, move to freaking Englewood. where it's still $1,200 for a 1-bedroom, and then have to drive to Hollywood every day to freaking,
Dang.
work at Target or something. It's all screwed up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to say, I'm doing something about the homeless problem. No, you're not. You're inviting trouble.
Yeah.
And,
So the Austin mayor went to 2 places to see what they did with the homeless, and how they're dealing with the homeless. And it was Los Angeles and San Francisco. And so he came back, and the thing he did to help the homeless was make camping anywhere you want legal, right? Because it was before that.
In the last few years, Austin, it's crazy. I was down. I mean, there are certain spots like you're like, it's the same. It's like, oh wow, I'm in the Tenderloin all of a sudden in San Francisco. You're like, what in the fuck? It's bizarre. Yeah. It's very strange.
So Adam Carolla called that out. He was like, what they've done is that they've made things that were once illegal, they made them legal. Problem solved. That's how they fix. And he was calling out like, Garcetti and Newsom. He goes, and that's how they're solving stuff, is they're making things that, once were, you can't do this. Oh, okay. Now it's legal. Just do what you want.
LA is solving their homeless problem by saying exactly that. Like, oh, well, we can't have the cops take your possessions because that's illegal, because it's your possessions, even though you don't have a house. And we can't prevent you from sleeping on the sidewalk. So if you put up a tent, that's okay. You don't have a bathroom, so I guess you could just go pee in the bushes or somebody's, backyard flowers, or the planters on the sidewalk on Venice, because that happened. And and you could live in your van, but you can't park there. Well, we can't really cite you because you can't pay the fine, so we'll just make it excusable to park your van there for 3 years. Instead of saying it's illegal to be homeless, you can't be on the street, you got to find somewhere to sleep. Like, so that's not going to help the problem whatsoever, right? So in Vegas, speaking of that, it's illegal, right? You can't be on the sidewalk. You can't sleep on the sidewalk. If you do, you get a ticket, or you go to jail. Is that humane? Maybe not as much, but it's keeping people from, deterring people at least from sleeping in the middle of nowhere because they're high all the time, and they're just, they're drug addicts, right? And they don't.
I would imagine that. Yeah. Get them off the street.
I don't know.
Who knows?
So that sounds funny though, because it's like, I know Texas has always been voting Republican, and California is obviously Democratic. But for Austin's mayor to go to LA and see how you should solve your homeless problem that's a joke.
Well,
if I ever heard one.
The exception in Texas though, like Austin.
No, I know. I know Austin. Austin is a lot like,
talk about
LA.
A dumb. Yeah. We want to solve a homeless problem. Let's go look at where the worst homeless problems are and heed their advice. Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Luckily, the governor of Texas is like, what the hell? What are you guys doing? So who knows? Who knows how
I think it's like you said, I think it's not the people of California that's the problem, that they voted in these people. It's what those people are doing. I mean, legit Democratic power or whatever, the way it should be, to me is a good thing. You know what I mean? I'm not really a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not a libertarian. I'm just like, I don't really like politics, but I also grew up in Sweden. So if I had to, choose something, I'd be like, the fundamental things should be available for people. Like, education should be affordable. Healthcare should be affordable. Any safety net should be, there. But beyond that, I'm cool with free enterprise and business and whatnot, you know what I mean? So, but they take it to this level of, well, we can't throw at the homeless. What are we going to do with them? So we just let them kind of do what they do. That's not the right approach. You know what I mean? So, I think Newsom is Garcetti, man. Those two of the worst things to happen to California. That's why a lot of people are leaving. That's for sure. It was bad for a long time. It started with Schwarzenegger. The entire time I've been in California, it's been going south. It was once the promised land, right? Everyone wanted to go to California. Not so much anymore, even though just tons of people moving there. But People are moving out as well.
Great weather, great beaches, some piss poor management out there.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's still great to live there if you want to live there for all those reasons. The weather is the best anywhere in the world, probably. I mean, you can't get better than that. It's beautiful. You can go to the mountains. You can go skiing in the morning. You can go to the beach in the afternoon. Can't do that in many places in the world. But yeah, you got to deal with paying way too much in rent. You got to be making, $100,000 a year if you're going to be semi-comfortable. Who does that? Not normal people, not musicians. That's for fucking sure. So it's going to be an elite kind of city. That's it. Elite state,
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is when you talk about this and you got all these people, homeless people camping out on the street. And that's not like nothing like super new, but I remember seeing that in Santa Monica and being like, wow, like holy cow. And now it's like, but that was almost used to be kind of be like, oh, Santa Monica, or like there were these certain places, right? Not to say they weren't homeless other places, but now like I was talking about in certain downtown Austin or in Hollywood Boulevard, you're walking along and there's just tents on the boulevard. That's crazy, and it's like, but right across the street from a fucking condo where, some CEO of a tech company is living in. It's like this huge chasm, right? Where's the middle? It's like you're here or you're here, right?
Yeah, there's no middle anymore. Definitely not in. I mean, I want to say all of California. Because, especially San Francisco and LA. San Diego is maybe more balanced, I guess, in a way, because either you grew up there and you kind of have family to have a house and whatever. You still can't buy one if you're just kind of moving there, but it's a little more, seems like a little more leverage of whoever is there, and it's not like an influx of 500 million people like LA, and it's not as big, and they're taking care of their city a lot better,
So it's more even keel. Right?
Yeah, and San Francisco is, and LA is a mess, So yeah, gentrification, man, that's the problem, though. It's happening
the
everywhere.
Population just keeps growing, right? I mean, even with an exodus, right? It's just
I guess everyone likes the beach,
and they like to fuck. They like the beach. And they like to fuck, and so lots and lots of people and.
So what do you got going, Skunk? What you got going for the next, plan for the good Roger and
man, I tell you what, I mean, for me personally, I'm very fortunate right now, just in this odd situation, the way some things are is, well, first of all, like I was saying, my brother is out in San Francisco and my fiance is also out in San Francisco. She got a job out there and moved out there, and we've been bouncing back and forth, and she actually got stuck here when the pandemic started. She'd come down for like a weekend and stayed for 4 months. Went back and moved to another place. So I'm open to kind of wrapping a few things up now, and then I'll probably go back and hang with her for a little bit, and hopefully next month. But man, I mean, a good Rogering has not really been super active. I mean, who has, right? Last show we played was January of last year, I think. But I got a new EP that's kind of been sitting around that'll be coming out with that. Several projects, man, a lot of stuff that was just been recorded that's going to be coming out this year. But one thing is this band, the Invincible Stars, I started playing with, which is really cool because we do like these film, like play at draft houses and theaters and stuff.
Nice.
Like, performing to old, like original soundtracks to old silent movies and shit. So that's fun, man. The touring with them. I can't wait to do that again. But we've started doing during the pandemic. We recorded a full score for something and that got released. And then we started just doing like these little singles, covers. And then since Eddie Van Halen died, we were like, Josh, the leader of that band, his thing, like, was like, man, we should do a Van Halen tribute. And all their stuff is very different. It's never like a normal, it's always fucking whack, right? So we're doing some Van Halen, some interesting treatments to Van Halen songs. And so on Eddie's birthday, on the 26th, we're putting out a video where you get to see me and all of my fat glory be David Lee Roth singing Van Halen. So I'm looking forward to putting that out.
I still think you should have gone with the unitard.
Look, if I had a unitard, I mean, I took it all the way. I worked with what I had.
You did,
right?
That was great.
I worked with what I had, but yeah.
The song is great too. I actually liked it. I thought it was a really
I've been getting
cool take on it.
I've been getting the last few. It's really funny. Just a lot of projects are culminating right now. So there's about 4 or 5 different things being mixed right now. But I've been getting these back and forths of the video. We shot a video over the course of 2 weekends, the video, and then the song mixes and
yeah, I can't wait to see that, man, and hear it.
I'm pretty proud of it. I probably shouldn't be, considering how I look in it, but I'm proud of it. It's fun. We had fun. I'll put it that way. So yeah, man. I mean, fortunately, been doing music and just teaching. Like I said, the remote teaching has been kind of an interesting thing, but nowadays too, it's a lot of just sort of little session kind of file swaps and things here and there too. So
yeah, are you teaching guitar and are you teaching piano as well, or?
Yeah, I do both.
Yeah. I had no idea you could play piano like that, man. You sound great, dude. Every time I see you,
I play piano the same as I've played guitar, man.
Every time I see you play piano, my mind's like, I need to practice. Man. I can't play anything. I was teaching a piano lesson today. It's like really funny. It's like, so I started teaching. Besides, got to get some extra money in LA. In Vegas. So I started working at Guitar Center, teaching some lessons on the weekends. And they gave me a piano lesson because my manager was like, "Well, our piano teacher's booked, but we have this kid. He wants to learn piano. Do you play piano?" I go, "I play enough piano to teach a little kid."
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
So he's like 7-year-old boy I'm teaching. It's really funny, but So now he's like, "I want to learn ABC by the Jacksons." I'm like, "Oh, all right, okay, cool. Got my work cut out for me now."
Okay.
How can I teach you something? Oh wait, I like bad. Okay, do. I can teach you that. That's cool.
Right.
That's good. That's good for 70.
It's timeless, man. Certain things. Like I did this program called Grounded in Music for years, which was like a nonprofit thing, and I did once or twice a week. I don't even remember. Like met some great kids from it that I still know to this day, and but it was it was for. A lot of these kids were very disadvantaged, right? And it was through these Boys and Girls Club. And we had one place where they even had like a whole setup with a Pro Tools rig and stuff and 2 rooms with drums and shit. It was pretty cool. But I mean, I started doing that and you would have all these kids in there and they were all like, they all wanted to learn Michael Jackson. It was crazy. You know what I mean? I'm just like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson and Lil Wayne. That's when that was. Whatever he was popping. I was like, that is quite a
this kid was like, "What's your favorite song?" He goes, "Yeah, like ABC, and then the Jurassic World soundtrack." I'm like, "Oh,
let me just teach you the soundtrack." Cool.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I could probably teach you that theme melody. Maybe I don't know. It's easy.
Well, for you, that's got to but you've never really taught kids, right? I mean, obviously, you're dealing with teenagers or adults, people. I'm assuming. Right.
Yeah. I've taught kids a couple of times only because I was doing subbing lessons for, a store in Reseda for a minute and had a couple of 8-year-olds. Yeah. So I have a little bit of, experience with it, but not so much adults, but yeah. I mean, I mostly get
job teaching kids. I mean, having said that, I have some kids, but most of the people I have now I've had for years, you know what I mean? And they're teenagers but it is really awesome to have a kid, especially when you kind of teach them music beyond like, let me show you how to play this riddle, but you teach them and they become a musician. And then you're like, look at this fucking 14-year-old kid playing Master Puppets. It's the shit. You know what I mean? Like that's really cool. And I dig that part of it. I do have aspect's not my favorite.
I do have a 12-year-old boy that's he got a guitar for Christmas, and he's the first thing I taught him was obviously strings and tuning and stuff like that. And then, all right, okay, what do you like? He's like, oh, I like rock. I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, do you like Rolling Stones? He's like, I like the Rolling Stones. Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm going to teach you Satisfaction for your first riff. I said, and I told him, I wish someone would have taught me Satisfaction for the first thing I ever learned on guitar. So I taught him the intro riff, and he's learning super quick and he's super excited. And he took his 4 lessons, and his parents were like, how's it going? And they renewed the thing. So I'm going to keep teaching him.
Is that, are you doing that online?
Some of them are online, some are in the store actually. Because
in Vegas at the Guitar Center. That's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been pretty fun. Been
Cool.
different. I got a lot of different things going on. Trying to do that, trying to teach at MI, obviously, and then I'm trying to do my own lesson, little 2-minute things coming up for YouTube, and I may do my own little course and put it on, one of these sites, a Patreon or whatever. And then I'm trying to write some original rock instrumental stuff and make it a little different than, just to showcase myself, and then we got Elegantly Wasted's got a couple more songs happening. And then I got a punk cover band that we wrote a couple of originals. So I'm recording one for that. And then I have the ABBA tribute band, which is obviously not playing right now. I can play them for a while, but
that's probably a good gig, right? Is that like a good pay kind of?
Yeah, it was. It's. Depends on the gig. Like some gigs we got $200 each. We played one in Mesquite. Here's an hour and a half north of Vegas, and we made $900 each.
Holy shit, man! Wow.
Yeah, for one gig, we sold it out. It was our first gig. It was a door deal thing, and man, we made $900 each. I was like blown away.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, let's play that. Let's play that once a month.
Seriously, dude. Wow.
So
yeah.
Cool.
It's the classics, man.
Yeah, cool, exactly.
People digging the classics.
Where so elegantly-wasted.com, you have a website?
It's elegantlywasted.net.
.net, okay.
Yeah. Or you can find us on Instagram. It's Elegantly Wasted Band on Instagram. You can probably just search for Elegantly Wasted Band on Facebook.
Google, yeah.
Yeah, Google. Because if you just put in Elegantly Wasted, you get a bunch of In Excess things. Because they made that album. But that's the main thing. Got my punk band. It's called DTH Punk Covers on Instagram, I think. And, ABBA band is called ABBA LA. Very plain. ABBA Los Angeles. All of them are on Facebook and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Now, correct, is ABBA, were they from Sweden?
Yes. Stockholm, Sweden.
Is the whole band, are you guys all Swedish?
No, I'm the only Swede.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're the authentic member.
Yep. True. We have a Dutch. We have a Dutch singer. We have a Canadian singer. We basically grew up in the U.S. in Florida, but we have an Austrian keyboard player, and we have an American bass player and American drummer. So it's a little bit of an international band.
Cool, man. So there's kind of your three main things, and then the teaching, obviously, and dude, I'm looking forward to hit me up when you release the new music. Absolutely.
It'll be probably some spring. I'll have something out.
Killer, man. Awesome.
Yeah, and we'll probably.
Dude, I'm excited that you're in Vegas because I've been planning on going to Vegas, and now I know someone. I know like 2 people in Vegas now, maybe even 3. I don't know. I'm starting to work. I'm starting to get my network, my Vegas network going there.
There you go. You weren't in school with Aaron Nordstrom either, right? That was after you, I think.
I'm not. It's not ringing a bell.
He's an albino kid, or was a kid. He's not a kid. He's a grown man. He's got a band called Gemini Syndrome. They're fairly known. Oh
yeah,
actually.
That sounds really familiar, actually.
Yeah, he lives out here too.
No kidding.
So yeah, man. Vegas anytime, dude. Vegas or Hollywood. I'll be between the two.
Dude. I love that, man. That you're kind of bouncing around and still able to do the MI thing and new opportunities coming up, man. That's awesome, dude. Good to hear that you haven't been crushed by the pandemic and you're not living in a tent on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, I know, right? No, it's worked out pretty great for me. I'm very thankful, that I'm still able to do what I do, and be in a safe place and all that good stuff. So
right on.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to the podcast, man.
Dude, it's been great catching up with you and learning a little about you and chatting and all that kind of stuff, man. Thanks for doing it. Appreciate it.
Of course. Nice to meet you guys too, Vic. Nice to meet you too, Skunk.
Yeah, of course, nice meeting you.
Last time we were hanging out on Facebook Live or something like a year ago or whatever, I think.
Yeah. Dude, you're right. I remember that chatting on there. Yeah. Lenny J, WideSmile.
Widegren.
But there you go. Widegren, WideSmile.
Wide smile.
There you go. It's pretty wide smile. That's pretty good. I'll take it.
Brother. All right, man. Until next time, this has been Skunk Manhattan, Victor Ramos with Lenny J. WideSmile on Eclectic Soundtrax. Take care.
All right.
Later.
Rose and a lonely day, a tear running astray. Rain tastes bitter when love is a sinner and love is a killer today. A leaf has withered away, a memory tries to stay. Rain tastes bitter when love is a sinner and love is a killer today. Yeah, hope walks down a lonely road, shuts you out and turns you cold. But time will heal a broken heart. The spring will come again when leaves unfold. Word but nothing to say. A life in disarray. Face may not betray. A soul living in gray. Yeah, hope walks down a lonely road, shuts you out and turns you cold. But time will heal a broken heart. The spring will come again when leaves unfold. Yeah, spring will come again when leaves unfold. A rose and a lonely day, a rose and a withered away. Yeah, rain tastes bitter when love is a sinner and love is a killer today.